In the capacity that you had with the film, what was that working space like? Like, what was it like to work on the film?
Uh, it was huge. I mean, not just for me. It was the biggest thing I'd ever done, but it was just huge in the scale of time and place. And I don't know if it's one of the most expensive movies ever made. It was it was so big. I think almost the entire Warner Brothers studio was being used by the film. I
Wow.
think there might have been another film at the time because a friend of mine was doing some work on the other end, but it felt like a city in and of itself. It felt like a
Wow.
world. It felt like, yeah. So this world had been created in Warner Brothers studio in London, in Watford, and it it was really hard to stay focused. I had to really stay because I am a bit of a I'm a Wonder Woman fan, and although I don't think she was on set any the time that I was there, I my trailer was right next to her stand-in trailer, and I started to freak out. I was like, "Oh
Yeah, yeah.
my god!" So I had to really focus because it would be so easy to get overwhelmed. My first day of shooting, I suddenly have these kids. Suddenly we're getting on a bus. Like there's an entire street that's been built, and then a real bus is coming down the street, and then I'm inside. There's a whole diner built inside. There's a whole street built on Warner Brothers lot for Goth. I mean, the detail was so amazing. I had ID as Linda J. Reed.
Wow.
Just everything was so big. I'd never seen anything to that detail, that was that thought out, um, that much care given, really, I guess.
Wow.
And they could afford to do it. They could afford to go and where they wanted, as we have seen now. I don't know how. I think I'm not friends with Zack Snyder or anything, although hi Zack. Um, I don't know how satisfied he is with the release, but it seems like it pretty much fulfilled the vision that was kind of floating around us for 4 years.
Right.
So I'm really glad for him, and I'm glad for Ray Fisher and Ray Porter. My God, oh, he was bone chillingly great. He was
Well, both of them.
uh,
Both of them. My
both of
gosh.
them. One of my favorite moments in the film is the smile that he has after I have the reaction for he does this tiny, tiny smile, and it's a brilliant acting moment. Um, no, it was so big and so overwhelming, but I did not realize how invested the fan base, and it's not just Snyder fans, it's not just DC fans, and it's not just cinema fans. It's all of them mixed together.
For
You
sure.
know, random people that I haven't heard from since high school are going, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're in this. This is amazing. I love the Flash. I wanted to be the Flash." All this outpouring of enthusiasm
For sure.
is amazing. So I was talking about the set. See, this is what happens. I go from subject to
Yeah.
subject unless I'm corralled
Well,
like a pony.
that's so crazy what you're saying about how big the set is, because I remember. So I've been following Snyder's movies since Dawn of the Dead. I watched that when I was way too young, on a little portable DVD player, and that like blew my mind because I was like, "You can make this movie? Like this is able to be made? What?" And so going through like, and I was the kid that loves watching like the behind the scenes. And what really stuck out to me was on the old school DVD. I don't know if they put it on the Blu-ray anymore, but on the old school DVD they did like behind the scenes with Snyder and how insistent he was on using everything practical. Like the whether it was the sets themselves, or it was like a zombie getting his head blown off or like an arm blown off. It was an actual, like, they created fake skin and blew it out. They used a real like person that didn't have any legs as a legless zombie. Like they got real and ingenuitive with that. So I mean, it's just honestly awesome to hear that, like, really his biggest movie being his Justice League, that he was allowed, at least at the time, because I would imagine you were shooting at the end of 2016.
Yeah, it was end of September, beginning of October.
Okay. So when that was happening, that they allowed him to like go all out and like, yeah, we're not gonna CGI in a diner, or we're not gonna CGI in a bunch of cars. Like they had everything living and breathing, and I'd imagine that just gives you such a sense of being transported to a different world as an actor.
Yes, very much so. Although all of my vignettes, all of the sets were in one soundstage.
Interesting.
So like there was one little corner that was the kitchen, and there was one little corner that was outside the apartment. There was one corner that was the grocery store. So inside those sets, everything was really super real.
Wow.
But they only went so far.
Right. But that's crazy. They made all of those. They could have just so easily like digitally put you into a thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was, I couldn't believe how big it was. And I don't know if you, I've said in other interviews, I didn't know that it was more than one scene. I thought it was one day shooting. I thought it was one day scene at the ATM. And then I discovered there's this whole life, whole storyline. I had a name. I had children. And it was, and the trailer as well. I didn't know I had a trailer until I got there. I was like, a what? I got a what? So it was, yeah, I mean, not a Cinderella story, but it was, some people have pointed out that it's a little bit like my character's story in the film, that I didn't really know how big it was, or I was just kind of trundling along in my life, and then suddenly this thing happens,
right,
and I'm in this huge movie. And also the storyline of me not knowing if I was in the film or not, and then suddenly getting this outpouring of validation and affection. So the whole experience has felt a little bit like, wow. Just unexpected deliciousness the whole time.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine, to be frank. I couldn't even imagine. Yeah, it's such an amazing thing that it happened, and it just seems like through all of his movies, if there's one thing that's consistent other than like the insane visuals, it's that he creates a very healthy set atmosphere. Was that pretty consistent with what you experienced when you were there?
Yeah, I wasn't. I worked with him on one on the big ATM scene,
right?
But the other days I was working with 2 days. I worked with a guy named Clay Staub on the Splinter set, and he was so great. The whole set did have a really good. I don't want to say relaxed feeling, but it wasn't. There was the anxiety levels were very low.
Right.
The pressure was high, but the anxiety was pretty low. I'd never done anything this big, and this guy Clay made me feel very relaxed and welcome.
Oh, that's awesome.
And guided me, but also gave me freedom to improvise. I improvised like in the birthday scene. I would improvise, little bits here and there. Not most of it didn't get in, but he gave me a lot of freedom as well as guiding me. And I think that kind of thing comes from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
That if, I've been on commercial sets where the producers and the directors, they don't actually talk to you.
Oh, wow.
And they won't talk to you. They'll just be looking at the monitor and pointing at you on the monitor and saying, this person needs to do this, or we're going to take this person out now. And they won't make contact with you. So yeah, that was very every part of the first unit, the second unit, the splinter unit, it felt very relaxed and very very creative, I guess. Yeah, I still think about that set, the Gotham Street set. It felt like going home. It felt like being in New York.
Wow.
And to see it at night for the night shoot, there was a crane and there was rain effects. And then Zack Snyder was a little bit further over and he was watching on the monitor. And Ray Fisher was there, but I don't count it as us working together because I wasn't supposed to know he was there.
Right.
But I met both Zach and Ray that night. And you try to be cool, but I was just so not cool. Oh, I was so dorky. My God. I had Googled Zack Snyder the night before and found out that he had been born in Wisconsin, and I was born and raised in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
So instead of going and saying, "Hi, I'm really glad to be on the movie," I went, "Hi, I'm from Minnesota." And he had no idea what I was talking about. He thought it was a character thing. He's like, "Oh, so you're saying your character's from Minnesota?" I'm like, no.
God bless that guy.
And then later we shared another moment where he asked me to come and look at the monitor. And that was quite cool. There was a little me running around going, ee! On the monitor, but it said property of Warner Brothers on the monitor. And I said, "Look, I'm property of Warner Brothers." And he said something like, "We're all property of Warner Brothers."
Oh.
Or I'm not sure. He either said that or "Aren't we all?"
Yeah.
I want to think that he said "Aren't we all?" but I'm not sure. I can't exactly remember. But considering everything that's happened, it's like,
yeah, it's like that's a very telling thing.